Hey guys, today we're going to look at using the type tool in Photoshop. I'm going to go through the basics of just using the type tool, how to get it, how to type, adding type into a shape, and then we're going to go over some different effects that you can do to the type so that you can create some interesting works of art using your images in Photoshop along with the type tool. So here we go. The first thing that you need to know is that over here on the side on the tool panel, this T stands for type tool. T, just the T on your keyboard, is the shortcut to get to it. When you hold the mouse click down, you can see some other options. So you could do horizontal, vertical type mask, horizontal type mask. We're going to stick to the horizontal type tool for today. So when I click, you could see, actually I just clicked, whoops, I'm going to delete that. You can see that when you click on this, you get this little icon, and up at the top here in the options panel you can see that already it has changed from what it was on the move tool, where we can change our font. We could change what style within that font we want. We can change the point size of your font. We can change whether it's left justified, centered, or right justified. Change the color. We can change all those things, but to create a text box you can click and drag. So this will create a text box. Whoops, box. So that is a text box, and you can see that as I typed in, it bumped up against this side here. It automatically made a line break. So if I go to my move tool and I get the text tool again, and just this time instead of clicking and dragging, I'm just going to click once, and it will give me just a continuous line. So it'll just keep typing. So this is a line of type, and then I have to come back and click and hit enter to make it have line breaks. All right, so that is a continuous line of text. And over here on the side, on my layers panel, you can already see that every time that I've clicked on the text tool to make a new text box, it has automatically created a new layer. And it has created a new, not only has it done a new layer, but they're named whatever I have typed in the text box. You can change the name by double clicking, and it'll give you the blue highlight so you can type whatever you want in there, but it's kind of nice to see that it matches the layer. Another thing we can do is get the shape tool over here on the toolbar, and this time I'm going to hold it down and I'm going to get the ellipse tool. So I'm going to make a circle, and now when I go get my text tool, I can type in here, and when I hover over this, you can see that out here it makes a box, so I can make a text box, but when I'm in the circle, it has a little circle around it. So when I click this, the text box, or what's confining the text, is going to be the shape of whatever that shape layer is below it. So when I click, this is typing in, oops. So layer, the R didn't fit, and you can see this little plus sign popped up here, and that's actually alerting me that, hey, all of your type that you just typed does not fit in this text box. So I have some choices here. I can highlight, and I can do Command A to select all, and I can come up here and highlight and arrow down to make it fit. So now that little R popped up. To make it look more like a circle, I could maybe center it so that it fits better within the circle. And you can see that now I've got this circle text, or text typed into this circle shape. Over here, it's important to note, though, that these two things are still separate. Like my text is still a separate layer from the ellipse tool, or the ellipse that I drew. All right, so those things still remain separate. So that's how to get text onto your page. Now, what about editing text? So you've typed all of what you need, and you've realized you've made a mistake, which I'm sure I have in here somewhere. So to correct any mistakes that you've made, you go back to the layer, and you can see that it shows you that it's selected. You go back to the text tool, and then you can click directly onto that text layer, and it will allow you to edit as necessary. So we can do edit. We can go back to the move tool. We can move it around. We can do all of those changes to our text. So that's adding text in and editing. Now, to create some kind of different effects, you can add another layer. I'm going to hide some of these so that we don't have so much going on, or maybe I'll just move them out of the way. Move that one down and put this one up here. get rid of my ellipse tool over here to kind of clean up some. So now I've got these 3 places for text. So one thing I can do is I could add highlighting maybe behind my text. So I could get my paintbrush tool, and in your brushes, if you scroll down on the types of brushes, you'll see some interesting brushes. You might not have all the options that I have here, but you can find some kind of different ones. So maybe I'll try this oil pastel. And first thing I have to do first is create a layer. So, all right, now I've got my oil pastel brush. I can change the size of my brush. So I'll go about maybe a little bit bigger, maybe right there. So I can change the size. I can also change the color of my brush if I want to come down here to the swatches. If I had a photograph, I could select a color that I want to use from that. I'll just go to yellow by sliding up. And now I can create this kind of highlighted effect. Of course, right now it looks like I'm just painting over this text because the layer that I created that I'm doing this paintbrush on is above my text layer. So if now I'm done, I can click this layer and drag it under here. Behind this is a box edit. So now it kind of has like a highlighted effect. That's kind of fun. Another thing that you can do is create kind of like a knockout text. Now I had placed this image on here earlier so that I could show you guys this effect. So for this one, it creates like a knockout. So my text is going to now be see-through so I can see the image below it. So what I'm going to start with is a shape layer. I'm going to get a rectangle and I'm just going to make it the size that I want. So that's probably good right there. And when you do a shape layer up here in the options panel, you can see where the colors are. So I'm going to make this one white. If I want to pick a color from the photo, I can click this little rainbow thing and it'll give me a dropper. So I could, maybe I want to get like a cloud blue. So I could click that and you can see how it pops up over here and do okay. And I want to make the stroke none. So I'm going to click that little white box with a red line through it. So now I have this sky blue box. And now the layer that I'm changing is this is a line of type. So I'm actually going to drag this right above this blue rectangle layer. So now I have these 2 things together that go together. And if I hold down Command on my keyboard and click the T, it makes the little marching ants go around all my letters. I'm going to click back onto my rectangle. Now I want to go to Layer, Layer Mask, Hide Selection. And it doesn't look any different here, but you can see next to the blue rectangle, there's a mask layer. So if I hide this layer of text, you can see that it created this like knockout of type so that we can see through it into the image. So that's kind of a cool effect. The drawback here is that this is not actually editable text. It's just an image of the text. So if I realize that I made a mistake in here, I would have to go back to my text layer, edit it, fix the mistake, and then go through that process again. So you want to make sure that before you do something like this is kind of like destructive editing because it's actually changing the layer of the type. So you can't change it any further from that. You want to make sure that everything's exactly right or be willing to go back and through the process again. So that's that effect. Another thing that you can do is kind of put the image into the text, and this works best with really chunky fonts. So I'm going to use this is typing in a shape layer right here, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to make this super heavy type, and I want to make it bigger, and I know that it's going to kind of run out of space here, and that's okay. I'm going to make it huge so that we can really see this. So all we're left with is and that's okay. So now what I've got is, this is typing on a shape layer. I'm going to move this layer right down below this image. So I've got this type and this image together because what I'm going to do is make the image show up into this text. And the way I'm going to do that is actually put the image over top of the text layer. And then when I either right click or 2-finger tap on this outside portion of the layer, this menu will pop up and I'll do Create Clipping Mask. And now you can see this little arrow pointing down to the text layer, and that means that it's a clipping mask for the layer below it. So the layer below it is this text, or this type. And so it's clipping around the edges so that this image is showing through. So you can see it in there. And then I can click, I'm on the image layer still, so I can click and move it around, and you can see that image back there. So that's another really cool effect that you can do. If you want to undo some, like the clipping mask, you would just double click again and do release clipping mask, and it'll go back to normal. So those are some effects that you can do with type. Hopefully you get some ideas. Maybe you have some ideas of your own to, hopefully you can like expand on what I've just shown you, and you can come up with some original ideas that you've invented in Photoshop. So at least this is a starting point. Have fun editing.